Well, Sheffield Wednesday's captain lost his fight for fitness after that knee injury here on Saturday. So Viv Anderson becomes the fourth centre-back at the club to be injured. So Trevor Francis's hands are tied, rather. He'd love to see Carlton Palmer in midfield. He'd love to have Paul Warhurst in attack. But those two are needed to be the defensive cornerstone, with Palmer the captain. Roland Nilsson is chosen despite playing the full 90 minutes for Sweden against Austria in a World Cup qualifier only 24 hours ago. The problems with the Sheffield Wednesday supporters so severe with the difficulties of travelling that the official ball boys didn't make it here in time, and they've had to take a dozen lads from the crowd to have a night to remember on official duty. Well, the feeling in the Arsenal camp is that they can only improve on their performance on Saturday, but Sheffield Wednesday had their chance and couldn't quite take it. Waddle. Hurst. Waddle's cross. David Seaman, who picked up an injury on Saturday, a stiff shoulder. But Waddle getting in an early ball to examine the goalkeeper. Adams. Winterburn on the left. Merson going out that side now. Davis. Oh, Alan Smith was calling for an early cross there. Dixon trying to go on himself, and now Arsenal will have to check back against the strong running capabilities of Harkes, who's got four teammates making their way into the centre. Wilson on the edge making it a fifth. This is Sheridan. Can he see a shot here or a cross? And in the end, it came to nothing for Sheffield Wednesday.
A little bit unlucky. I think he got caught in two minds. I think initially he looked for the shot. It was a right pick by John Harkes. Spotted him very well in space at the edge of the box. But then John Sheridan, I felt he wanted to shoot, but then dragged it a little bit wide and tried to pick a cross out.
Sheffield Wednesday playing their 21st cup tie of the season. David Hurst's goal was their 50th in cup competitions this season. That, of course, involves a little outing in the UEFA Cup as well. They need to win tonight to have European football at Hillsborough next season. And if they were to do that, Arsenal would stay in the UEFA Cup, a position that they have by beating Sheffield Wednesday here last month. And Norwich City would miss out. Woods not likely to panic with the back pass. He's been playing at Wembley for 15 years now. But he might be worried against Campbell, right in the centre. Smith is there. Palmer came across. And in the end, it's hammered out of play by Sheridan. One or two questions being asked in there by Sheffield Wednesday as to what went wrong for an instant.
I'll tell you what, Alan Smith is lovely. Normally such a lovely setter up a play. Didn't really give Kevin Campbell the right ball there. Played it far too much of an angle. Had he played him straight through, Campbell was in goal.
Oh, well, what a reply that would have been by Andy Linnigan, having been blooded around the nose by Mark Bright. He nearly did much more damage to Sheffield Wednesday with the header.
Yeah, he missed a glorious chance on Saturday in the first half with a header. And this is equally as good. I'm not so sure if he quite makes it. He's stretching a little bit perhaps, and that's what made him miss the target. But a good ball in from Lee Dixon to Linnigan.
Adams. He was caught by Wilson. Well, that's what happens when players chase in on the goalkeeper, as David Hurst did then. And the ball comes back quickly from the clearance, and you're yards offside. Linnigan. Here's Waddle. trying to get outside Winterburn and trying to suggest that he was thrust aside unfairly. The referee didn't see it that way at all. Merson from Wright's attempted through pass, good covering by Palmer, waddles back on his feet.
Here we see it again. Certainly the hand goes up, whether there's anything in it or whether Chris Waddle makes a little bit more of it. We don't have a good view, a better view of it from here. I mean, they're both tugging at each other. I mean, I think Chris Waddle makes a meal of that myself.
Apart from the blood coming from Andy Linnigan's nose, the word from the bench is that he might have a broken finger as well. And that will be checked at half-time. Dixon. Came off Warhurst, but went the right way in the end for Wednesday, in that it went to where Woods could collect. Bright. Always wrong-footed Wilson. Smith. Here's Merson. Well, Roland Nielsen came out of that smiling. But Campbell chasing back. And Harkes was hurried out of his stride. Jensen, Merson, Smith, good play from Arsenal. And it continues with Campbell. Dixon taking it on. And Palmer in the right place.
Well, if it was Sheffield Wednesday that started the better on Saturday, I think Arsenal have been the ones that have looked to have the bit between their teeth in the early part of this game. They look up for it, for me. They're all at their job, whether the criticism that they received after Saturday is stung, and I'm sure it would have done to a lot of the professionals at Arsenal. They certainly look up for this one.
I think, Andy, the sharpest criticism came from themselves. They know that individually and collectively they didn't really perform, particularly having taken the lead.
The one thing that again's been disappointing about tonight, as it was on Saturday, is that both goalkeepers, cracking goalkeepers in quality that they are, have not really been tested.
Here's Bright, running into Winterburn's territory. But Nielsen has it for Sheffield Wednesday. And more worryingly for Arsenal, it's Waddle. Oh! Well, John Harkes going in at the near post then. And David Seaman very grateful to grasp the ball.
I think Tony Adams is a lucky man here. Watch this as it comes in. He ducks out the ball. That's an amazing decision from the skipper, not knowing what was behind him. And the merest touch from Harkes would have set Sheffield Wednesday ahead.
Warhurst. Here's Jensen. And Ian Wright was setting himself for something spectacular then. What do you make of his comments about dedicating a win tonight to Steve Coppell?
Well, I think that shows you how much I think he feels he owes Steve Coppell for what he's achieved in the game. Steve has said some very nice things about Ian in the last few weeks leading up to the cup final, and I think Ian felt very much the same about Steve Coppell. He feels that had it not been for Steve, he wouldn't have achieved or be where he is in football now. And I think it's very much a mutual respect situation. But the one thing Ian, not forgotten though, he has to remember is he's got to win it first before he can dedicate it to anyone.
Well, he scored here for Crystal Palace twice in 1990 and didn't win. He scored for Arsenal on Saturday and hasn't yet got a winner's medal in his hands. But the way Arsenal have begun here, you think that there's good reason for optimism. Sheffield Wednesday are having to maintain their diligence in defence and haven't really been able to get out on a regular basis Dixon. Trying to wedge it up above Sheridan, but unable to do that. Just over half an hour gone. The lights on the electronic scoreboard shining brighter as night starts to fall. Campbell has got in a great angle for the cross. Jensen with the header. Merson found by Wright. Looked to put it back where it had come from, which wasn't the wisest decision. But Sheffield Wednesday labouring at the moment. Worthington clears after the header by Wright, and Paul Merson, who's sometimes more dangerous from outside the penalty area than he is from closer range, didn't connect at all cleanly.
Well, it's hard to criticise him. Normally you'd criticise players for that. When your team have built up a nice bit of pressure, and he makes it easy for Sheffield Wednesday by blazing it over the bar. But often enough this season, Paul Merson has sent one gloriously flying into the net from those kind of angles. But Kevin Campbell's lovely run wide here past Nigel Worthington did that wonderfully well, and then did what so many players do and hit the first man, the first defender at the near post.
And here's Wright. Wood started to come, and Ian Wright gets it past him. He's done in the replay what he did in the first game. He's given Arsenal the lead, with help here from Alan Smith to send him on his way.
Well, I said Alan Smith was normally so assured in setting people up. It's a super run from Ian Wright. When he needed composure, he had it. Aware enough as the goalkeeper went down to his left to just lift it over him. Watch this. Goalkeeper goes down there, and he's aware enough to dink it over him into the corner. A lovely move, but it has to be said that basically, apart from the first minute when Waddle got an early cross in, that Arsenal have looked the brighter, the more determined, I would suggest.
The back of Steve Morrow's head there, the scorer of the winning goal in the League Cup final. Well, it's early days to suggest that this might be the winning goal here tonight, but it's the leading goal for Arsenal, and it's Ian Wright's 30th goal of the season.
This is a wonderful finish. Not only had he two defenders right on his heels who he knew were there, he had one of the best goalkeepers I know in one-against-one situations, and that's Chris Woods. He was able to cope with all that pressure and finish quite wonderfully.
Here's Hurst, who led the recovery on Saturday. Wilson for Waddle. And that's met by Linnigan. Goes out off Merson. Chris Waddle getting the bird from the Arsenal fans who feel that he tried to get Winterburn into trouble earlier. Up go the boos again. In comes the ball from Waddle, only onto the head of Davis. Campbell. Oh, it's come from Sheridan, straight through for Smith. And Alan Smith feels that that shot was deflected to loop up over, but the decision is a goal kick.
I thought it was as well. I mean, it's Sheridan who opts for a hurried pass back, but if we watch here, I'm sure Carlton Palmer, yes he does, he gets enough on that to send it over Chris Woods' bar.
Oh, well, it's going Arsenal's way, and Alan Smith almost supplying a second.
Arsenal are always a threat from this sort of situation. They get such good movement and so many bodies. A little touch from Campbell, and Matt Bright just goes to sleep a little bit, and Paul Warhurst as well, and they allow Smith all the freedom of the 6-yard box there.
Wright, who was taken off after 90 minutes before extra time on Saturday, largely because he was tired, having not played very much recently because of a broken toe. What's he got to offer here? Well, he's given the ball away and he stayed down. Arsenal certainly not lying down, although they've conceded the free kick. Wright's back on his feet.
They spoiled things very well when they've lost the ball. Two central midfield players of Arsenal, Davis and Jensen, really have made it difficult for Sheffield Wednesday to get any rhythm at all in that midfield area. And they've not been short, Martin, they've not been short of support from Alan Smith as well. I have to agree with you there. He's been fantastic first half.
Arsenal lead at half-time, just as they did on Saturday. And the similarity doesn't stop there. Ian Wright again, the scorer, appropriate enough. His goals have carried Arsenal this far. And tonight, his 10th in the FA Cup this season. His 30th, as I say, in all competitions. Responsible for Arsenal going into the dressing room, leading by 1-0, and very good value for it. On a very wet night at Wembley, Sheffield Wednesday have to dig deep into their reserves of energy, their reserves of character. They're halfway through their 63rd match of a long season, a season that will end with no trophies in the cabinet unless they can turn things around here. Trailing Arsenal by 1-0. Ian Wright, who finished the first half limping, is out to participate in the kick-off to get the second half underway. No substitutions by either manager. Nielsen. Andy Linnigan showing no long-term ill effects from that elbow in the face by Mark Bright. Well, it was a hit and hope by John Harkes, and Andy Gray, you do feel that Sheffield Wednesday perhaps needs something along the lines of a lucky break.
I think you're right, but what they have to do is, as we said before half-time, they've got to dig deep now. They've got to make sure they don't concede another goal. You do feel if Arsenal were to go 2 ahead, then the game would be beyond Sheffield Wednesday. So that's the first thing they must do, is not concede another goal. And then they've got to just dig in.
Linnigan. Winterburn. 4 up in a line for Arsenal, one of them Campbell. Dixon. Threading it forward for Smith. Palmer across, both sides appeal. Arsenal get the decision. Will it be another long one from Lee Dixon, who's thoroughly enjoying himself, having missed the League Cup final with suspension for a sending off in the semi-final of the FA Cup. Merson has a swing, with Warhurst doing enough to put him off.
Lovely movement from Arsenal. Nice passing movement from the throw. They opted for the short throw there. Didn't look to just toss it in the box. And some lovely movement from Paul Merson.
Waddle. But the whistle had gone, and it's a Sheffield Wednesday free kick. Waddle's gone away to the left this time. Wilson plays it into the feet of Sheridan. Waddle ahead of Worthington. And further forward is Harks. And they forced the corner, and that's got the fans going again. John Sheridan will take it.
I don't remember him having too many corners first half either.
In the 7th minute of the second half. Sheffield Wednesday trailing by a goal to nil. Seaman, rather unorthodoxly, clutches it to his chest and then throws it straight to Wilson. Well, there was Davis and Adams there with arms all over the place, and appeals from the fans more than the players that the ball did strike an Arsenal arm. Right slipping.
I would suggest David Seaman's a mighty relieved young man, but nothing came of that.
But George Graham knows that they're not quite the side they were in the first half, and the message is sent, and I'm sure it will be received and understood.
They've switched Waddle and John Harks, Sheffield Wednesday. Chris Waddle now operating down the left side, Harks down this near side. And it's been noticeable in the last 5 minutes that they've actually managed to get Chris Waddle on the ball. That's a giveaway.
From Davis. 2 up for Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. The expected 2, Brighton Hurst. Hurst gets it. Harks now on the right. Waddle coming in from the left. And Mark Bright. And now Chris Waddle. Sheffield Wednesday have equalised. Waddle switched and striking.
Well, it's the both wide men who had just mentioned had been switched. John Harks with the early cross. Mark Bright is the one who goes on and misses his header. Lee Dixon can't control it. But I felt a little bit for David Seaman. I think he's got the initial shot covered. It deflects off Dixon, and the goalkeeper going for the initial shot is left helpless. This is a little break that Sheffield Wednesday needed. Watch the deflection. There is the one that takes it past Seaman. Wednesday back in the game.
You'll get the perfect view of it here. What Waddle was aiming for and how he found it via a part of Lee Dixon. 1-1. And should we be surprised at that? Palmer. Here's Waddle to take on Linnigan, who saw him coming.
Well, we kept saying something had to go right for Sheffield Wednesday. They needed a break, they needed a bit of luck. Full credit to them. Trevor Francis and Richard Barker are sent out his side. Fired up in the same way I felt Arsenal were in the first half. They've responded magnificently. They've pinned Arsenal back, and they've got that little break that every team needs.
Well, it's only Waddle's 4th goal of the season, and 2 of them have come here at Wembley in the semi-final and the final replay of the FA Cup. Adams on Hurst.
Well, which way is this going to go now? They looked so much in control in the 45-minute mark, did Arsenal.
Nielsen. It has to be decided, remember, but how will it be decided? When will it be decided? Hurst going in, and Bright's on the scene. Oh! It was a gaping goal, a golden opportunity, and Sheffield Wednesday will think here they should have been in front.
Well, this is a magnificent opportunity. They got to sleep again. Tony Adams, I don't know what he was thinking about. He assumed that they were obviously going to deal with it. It's a very inviting shot at goal. Sits up beautifully. You couldn't have teed this up any better for Mark Bright. And it's a very poor effort. Off his shin, bubbles it off the post to safety.
Davis, Smith, And even Winterburn caught out by Harks' run, and Adams given the chance to get the ball by Bright. Mark Bright is the type of player who's earned his living by his goals, just as Ian Wright has, of course. And Bright hoping things will get better for him on the pitch. Ian Wright limps out of the FA Cup final replay, and David O'Leary, who is playing his final match for Arsenal tonight, plays it at Wembley and could end up with another winner's medal, as he has in his collection already from 1979.
He couldn't score the winning penalty after extra time, could he?
Why not? He scored one in the World Cup for the Republic of Ireland. This is Jensen. They might not need penalties because Paul Merson has got it under Woods, but not powerfully enough to get it over the line, and the goalkeeper reclaimed it in the nick of time.
Well, I thought he'd fumbled that in.
The run from Worthington down the left, the side of the pitch that Waddle is staying on, and why not, having come in from that side to stir Sheffield Wednesday so much. Davis. Not much movement ahead of him. Campbell setting off through the centre now, but Davis sensibly keeping the ball for Arsenal by using Adams for Winterburn. Took Harks out with the pass.
Well, he just kicked the ground there, Nigel Winterburn. A lovely ball, though, inside the fullback from Tony Adams.
Well, Arsenal have gone three at the back now, which allows Winterburn and Dixon, of course, to raid on. Oh, and Dixon, just to emphasise the point. And they won't worry too much about him being out of position because there's Linnigan, there's O'Leary, there's Adams. But Waddle still finds Hurst. It comes off Seaman as Sheridan went in, and he's hurt. And is down as Jensen concedes the corner, and the game is stopped because of that.
It's a great little step over from David Hurst. And I think only the conditions have robbed the little man there, John Sheridan, of a golden opportunity. Ian Wright will be so disappointed that these ends come here. But this is a chance earlier that fell to Paul Merson. We think Campbell's got it, but Merson steps in onto his right foot, opts for power there. For a moment, you think it's going in. But Chris was mighty relieved to grab it at the second attempt.
Well, Ian Wright must wonder what he's got to do to score a winning goal in a cup final. He had Crystal Palace in front, 3-2 at Wembley in 1990. Kevin Campbell getting a spot of treatment as well as Alan Smith, the Sheffield Wednesday physio, looks at John Sheridan. And Ian Wright has done it on Saturday and again tonight to give Arsenal a lead that they've subsequently lost.
I mean, losing Ian Wright's bad enough, Matt, but the one thing it won't do is the change of formation won't upset Arsenal in any way. It's something they're used to playing, this three at the back, something they played under George Graham an awful lot. So they'll slip into that, I think, quite comfortably.
And Chris Waddle was conducting the Sheffield Wednesday choir. In from Worthington. Hurst! It's a corner.
Oh, for just a second I thought he's got in front of Tony Adams and he's going to bury this. Adams just got enough on it.
Less than 5 minutes to go before extra time. What a time this will be to score for Sheffield Wednesday. Waddle playing to the crowd again. wanting them to help will the ball into the Arsenal net. Bright right in front of the goalkeeper, who palmed it out to Palmer. Bright again, once more the vigilant Nigel Winterburn. But it's Sheffield Wednesday's throw. They had their periods of ascendancy on Saturday and couldn't kill the game off. They've certainly had the opportunity to win it here through Mark Bright, and now they're wondering where Alan Smith is going, and Kevin Campbell wasn't on the same wavelength as his teammate then. Here's Nielsen. Well, two sides here who have stood it toe-to-toe and really slugged it out, and they're both still standing. Sheridan. Campbell impeded Warhurst. Free kick taken. Sheffield Wednesday reacting a little quicker than Arsenal. Look at Nigel Worthington go. Waddle. Bright making a move. Worthington, can he reach it at full stretch? Hyde was moving in then. Merson not too sure where the ball would drop. It was reclaimed for Wednesday by Harkes. This is Roland Nielsen, looking as though he's just come on to this game, let alone coming to the end of his second game in 24 hours, and how will he take extra time?
Well, he doesn't look as if he's shown any signs of wear and tear at all. Quite incredible, he must be running on empty. But I think Arsenal now are the team for me that are looking towards that final whistle. I think they'd be quite happy to see it come along, so they can just set the stall out again, just get themselves together. George Graham can have a word or two as one of his players. And if you're able to see both benches, it's Sheffield Wednesday one, and they're sitting there, they want full time. Richie Barker was up on his feet. He's urging his team on, he wants to win it now. I think they can sense that.
Hurst, room to turn, Bright to the left. Only one other player involved for Sheffield Wednesday, it's Sheridan, but David Hurst takes them all on. Oh, it's the outside of the net. When we were wondering whether, and certainly Trevor Francis was wondering whether there would be a goal that would become part of Wembley folklore in the FA Cup final.
But the front two of Sheffield Wednesday have showed the second half. If you give them something to work on, then they're capable of causing anybody trouble. But picks the wrong option there by going near post.
And the final whistle goes after 90 minutes. It's very much as you were. Even the shape of the superiority so similar to Saturday. Arsenal's first half, in which Ian Wright scored. Sheffield Wednesday's second half, no doubt about that. Chris Waddle with his deflected equaliser off Lee Dixon. And we go to extra time, and if it stays level, it would be a Wembley penalty shootout for the first time in an FA Cup final. Arsenal kick-off. The heady play of the first half from them, becoming more of a distant memory, but they'll need to find a little bit of that type of football to reassert themselves in the game. And whether the stoppage will have just harmed the impetus of Sheffield Wednesday, we must wait and see. They were the side that didn't want that whistle to come from Kieran Barrett to take us into extra time. They were going so well. Nielsen retrieving and not risking a sharp turn. Oh, and Woods almost giving Smith a chance of blocking that. Merson, as the moment he played the ball, of course Smith was offside. Smith still arguing with the referee that it should be taken deeper. He's probably right. Palmer. Hurst trying to take the pace off the ball with the header out to Harks. Nielsen just waiting for it to cross the line. It only just did that. Hurst has a strength about Sheffield Wednesday now. They're getting more of the 50-50 balls.
I think the most important word around is there's a belief about Sheffield Wednesday now.
Waddle. Sheffield Wednesday have it back again. Sheridan. Corner. The pursuing player who made Winterburn knock it behind was John Harks. Coming up to 7 minutes gone in the first period of extra time. Still, the two sides locked together, 1-1. That was mishit by Waddle. Nielsen lays it off. Shot by Sheridan, needed saving by Seaman.
Well, he has got memories of scoring a League Cup final winner, I think, at that end, Martin. Not so long ago.
2 years ago, Manchester United will tell you all about it. It was against them when Sheffield Wednesday were a second division side under Ron Atkinson. Well, there are memories here, although of course it can't happen the way the tournament is run these days, of the 1979 Sheffield Wednesday Arsenal series that went 5 games in the third round before it was settled in Arsenal's favour, and Arsenal went on to win the FA Cup. O'Leary. Adams. Jensen. Well, this is the stuff that heroes are made of. Someone has got to settle it tonight. And Arsenal trying to have their say that they will be doing it.
Well, I hope it's settled in this part of the match. You mentioned at the beginning about traditionalists. I'm afraid that I'm one of those when it comes to the FA Cup. I'd hate to be the first player to miss a penalty that's cost his team an FA Cup in a penalty shootout.
Hyde. Bright. Well, look at Roland Nielsen. Where does he get the energy from? Found by Harks. Lidigan cuts out the cross. Merson tries to be the barrier to the progress from Harks here. Straightforward for Seaman, if anything is straightforward at this stage of a match of this eminence. Woods looks around, wondered about knocking it wide to the left of Worthington. Far too much risk in that. And a speck of blood around the cheek of the chin of David Hurst. Adams. Davis beaten to it by Sheridan, who came really over his back. Smith got in first though, but Palmer dispossessing Davis. Now where can Sheffield Wednesday go from here with Carlton Palmer? Had to put the brakes on. He always plays his football with a smile, and he's become one of the most popular players around, and he's developed into an international character as well. He said to me before the game, well, I've been captain before, but I've never got the FA Cup before, and I'm going to get it tonight. We shall see. Harks for Nielsen. Nicely done by Sheffield Wednesday. Bright going to the near post. The ball too close to that post, almost directly at it.
He had time as well, John Harks. But that was another little example of the bright minds and the quicker legs at the moment, coming from the men in blue and white. What a lovely little opening with Roland Nielsen, and just crossed it a little bit earlier, I felt.
Well, you can feel the emotion welling up around the ground. Whatever happens, there'll be tears shed here. Some will be tears of joy, and others will be tears of despair. It's getting a later and later night for the young supporters. Remember, the kickoff was put back half an hour because of traffic difficulties with the Sheffield Wednesday fans caught in motorways that were blocked trying to get to the ground. Worthington. Hyde. Nielsen, little tight, but they found a pass there. Sheridan, Worthington wants it back. Linnigan has read the warning signals.
Tell you what, Mark, that may be tempting fate, and it's always easy to put your foot in your own mouth at times, but the only question that remains in extra time for me is can Arsenal hold out for penalties? I honestly can't see where a goal's coming from Arsenal. But Sheffield Wednesday are pushing and pushing and asking all the questions.
Merson. Well, Woods having the kick with his left foot. Davis, Merson, Winterburn. There's a spring suddenly in Arsenal's step. Can Davis head this one back? He can. Only onto the head of Sheridan. No nonsense from Waddle. Bright getting in front of Linnigan, but not mastering the run of the ball. Winterburn. Merson couldn't rein it in. Warhurst sees him off. Jensen. Well, for courage and commitment, you don't see matches much more dramatic than this. And at times there's been a flow to the football for the connoisseurs as well, but if that's been a little limited for your taste, you can see why with all the pressing and challenging that's been going on.
Oh, I don't know about anyone else, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
It's your type of game, Andy.
Oh, I love it. It's been great stuff for me.
And here's Dixon. Oh, and Woods watching it all the way, and in the end, he wasn't discomforted by it, but for a second he thought he might be.
Well, I said it. I don't know where a goal's coming from Arsenal, and I certainly hadn't looked at Lee Dixon crossing one in from the right wing. But I think Woods had that quite comfortably under control, that situation.
A minute left in the first period of extra time. Sheffield Wednesday forcing the pace for most of it. Arsenal just having a little more of a say as it comes to a close. With Smith. Oh, and Woods again not looking reliable on his left foot.
He'll tell you he spotted him and it was a good ball.
Parks, well, that is a good ball. And it was meant for Bright. And very nearly for Mark Bright. Won back beautifully by Sheridan. Adams with the header. What a battle. Worthy of Wembley and all the history. 70 years of FA Cup finals here. The 112th conclusion to the competition of all time. And it's half-time in extra time. Bright with that last flurry of activity, summing up the strength of Sheffield Wednesday. Close, but not for Trevor Francis and company. Close enough yet.
think he's trying to get Alan Smith's attention for some reason, George Graham.
Well, Paul Merson went a little bit towards his manager, but then realised that the game was turning around very quickly, as it's supposed to do, just waiting for Chris Woods to get into his goal. To the right as we look. And Sheffield Wednesday really anxious to get going again. Although, having said that, both Bright and Hurst moving somewhat tentatively into their forward positions from the restart. But Worthington so quickly on the scene and pressing Arsenal back.
One or two very tired-looking Arsenal players. Paul Davis and John Jensen, particularly to me, look very, very tired.
Sheridan, Bright, Hurst, oh, it bounced back against him. What a freak that would have been. If they'd have won the cup like that, you wouldn't have heard the last of it.
Well, he hit it so well and so hard. It's almost knocked him out as it rebounded back off Adams. But that's what Sheridan's all about. It's a super little ball in. Hurst, with that fantastic left foot he's got, it rebounds off his face. And he would have felt that.
You mentioned John Jensen and Paul Davis. Of course, they haven't been regulars in the Arsenal side, so they haven't had that many games of this type of stress and strain. Every sinew being put to the test now, and every nerve for the fans as well.
What they're up against as well is a young lad in Graham Hyde who's basically got young, fresh legs and wanting to make a name for himself, running at them, running past them, and they've just got to dig deep now.
Well, there are two sides of the argument as we move on towards the possibility of penalties. There's been a lot of criticism of the organisation of this replay, that the prices are too high, that it's hard for the fans from Sheffield to come down to London yet again. And that has been proved by the difficulties of today's journeys.
It would have been a wonderful gesture for someone in the FA, Martin, to have said, hey, this is a bonus game. It's not in anyone's budget. It's not in anyone's schedule. Let's reward the supporters of the clubs now. If it's an FA Cup final replay, slashing the prices and making it a night for them.
Merson for Campbell. And slid back by Warhurst. A skimming clearance by Woods. But the other side of that coin, Andy, is should we have another game, of course we know we're not going to in this particular final, but the campaign will be out if it is decided tonight on penalties. You can look at it both ways.
Yeah.
Two teams who have given so much, and it's my opinion, for what it's worth, that the decisive moment should come in a football context and not in a penalty shootout, however long that takes to provide it. Smith, and Woods was able to save it. I'm not absolutely sure whether it would have gone in.
I'm not so sure either, but what a glorious opportunity. This late in a game, the team's feeling such fatigue. You do feel a goal either way will win the cup. And Alan Smith had a wonderful opportunity there.
This is Davis. Another gritty gallop down the left by Nigel Winterburn that came to naught that time. Well, maybe Alan Smith's miss, or shall we put it down as a save to Chris Woods?
Here it is again, Martin, and you see, the one thing you can never guard against is a mistake, and it's Paul Warhurst who makes that mistake. But if Smith goes in, he's got time, but Chris Woods does what he's good at. I mentioned earlier, he's excellent in one-against-one situations, and he proved so there.
I was going to say, Andy, that maybe that just balances up the miss by Bright, which came so soon after Sheffield Wednesday had equalised. Waddle. Worthington. Dixon recovering superbly. Smith squeezing it wide under challenge from Palmer to Merson. It's all very well to talk about getting men forward at this stage, but the running it takes to do that is becoming more of an ordeal. Quick free kick, good thinking by Davis. And Smith was trying to slide it through for Campbell. Waddle. Here's John Sheridan. Waddle, it's a teasing ball, and Bright, if he touched it, he would have touched the heights of getting a goal that could well win the FA Cup for his side.
It's a magnificent cross, and Mark Bright has missed the two best chances at Wembley this evening. He sees it all the way, he only has to put his head on it, he has to leave the ground, fly at it, anything, you can win the cup. What a ball from Waddle. But as that move was building up, Martin, I was looking at Paul Davis in particular. He is out on his feet.
Warhurst.
It was a token gesture to catch up with Waddle there from him.
Linnigan. Waddle has got the better of Dixon. And he's got the ball magically back. Trying to find Bright, it comes off the head of O'Leary. Well, it's emotional enough commentating on this. What it must be like for the committed to the cause, and it's Campbell for Arsenal. And Merson lets it run. He thought he knew where Smith was. Davis lets fly, and that emphasises the weariness in his legs, and he bends double there.
Well, that's twice in 5 minutes that Paul Warhurst has got away with real sloppy defending. I know there's tired legs out there, but you don't take chances when you're tired. You just whack the thing out of play. And there's two Sheffield Wednesday players injured. He makes an error there, but Carlton Palmer, for me, does everything right. He knows Campbell's strength's his right foot. He tries to tempt him to go left, and that gives him enough time to get one or two blue and white shirts back in. And we saw there as it came back to Paul Davis what I was emphasising about him. He really looks shattered to me. It's a very, very tired looking attempt.
And Sheffield Wednesday will give a little pat on the back to Nigel Worthington and John Sheridan, who were the bodies in there behind Carlton Palmer, that kept Arsenal out of reach, which looked less than likely as Kevin Campbell closed in. But it's been a monumental match. Roland Nielsen trying to just keep the muscles flexed, trying to stop himself seizing up.
But he's given a magnificent example of fitness, the type of fitness needed in modern football, Martin, and Roland Nielsen typifies that. If that lad didn't look after himself, look after his body, keep himself perfectly fit, he would never have been able to do this. And I'm sure John Hart's, who's got the younger legs possibly, up to him now to help Roland Nielsen when he's in trouble at all. And I'm sure you'll find he will.
Well, it'll be hard to just keep tabs on the clock now because of the stoppages. Not taking those into account, we're coming up to 6 minutes to go, 6 minutes away from the destiny of the FA Cup being decided on penalties.
We know how dangerous Arsenal are at dead ball situations. This will be dumped, I'm sure, what we call a mixer, won't it? It's just going to be fed in there.
It was Hurst marking Adams. Campbell. Wearily lofted by Jensen, volleyed away by David Hurst. Again, sprightly work by Winterburn. Dixon. Here's Worthington. Can Sheffield Wednesday find a route forward from here? It's always a chance with the ball at Waddle's feet. But Dixon is very quick and has shown little sign of flagging, but Waddle has outskilled him. This is Graham Hyde. Now, it was a shame for Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, it gets closer and closer.
Jensen, oh, it's a good turn, and it was too good for Hyde, who was booked here on Saturday. He's getting a bit of a lecture in passing by Kieran Barrett. Chris Bart-Williams hasn't been called on, nor has Ian Selly for Arsenal. Two of the youngsters, of course, who were with England in Australia recently in the World Youth Championship. But both managers going with who they've got out there at the moment. And their minds will be turning to which of them will be strong enough and stout enough of heart to step up when the ball's on the penalty spot. Unless.
There's bags of time yet for a winner.
Oh, and Nielsen couldn't quite get there ahead of Merson, although he stuck to his tasks most commendably. Well, they should strike some sort of medal for valour for Roland Nielsen.
There are not many players could have done what he's done tonight, but there are one or two around, and he's, well, is it any surprise? He will be one of the last, in my opinion, if it goes to penalties, to step up, Mark, when you've got such tired legs.
Well, it has been a match in the modern vein. We talk about the general level of fitness of players, which is very high, but the physical nature, and I mean in that by and large challenges going for the ball, but bruising bodies as well in passing. There's a sapping side to the game, but John Harkes is still standing. Winterburn. Harkes pressing on again. A push on Jensen, who's the latest to go down and be almost reluctant to get on his feet. Arsenal can't take the free kick before the substitution.
Well, I think that's it.
Well, he should get a standing ovation from the Arsenal fans as well. Roland Nielsen goes off. 90 minutes for Sweden last night. And what? 117 minutes here for Sheffield Wednesday, 24 hours later.
And 120 last Saturday, not to forget.
Spread wide by Linnigan. Here's Davis. Adams, who still doesn't know whether it will be he or Carlton Palmer who will collect the cup tonight. "90 seconds plus whatever time Kieran Barrett chooses to add on." One would feel there might be a couple of minutes at that. Long from Woods. Bright gets his head to it. Returned by Linnigan over the back of Sheffield Wednesday. Warhurst read the situation well enough for Sheffield Wednesday, who will feel that if it was judged over the 2 hours, that they might just have shaded it after a poor start. Arsenal well in command in the first half, thoroughly deserving their lead, But Ian Wright, the scorer of the goal, substituted, and the thrust hasn't really been there since. Although Alan Smith had the opportunity. And might have another one here, not quite. And even after that, Mark Bright, had he flung himself at Chris Waddle's superbly subtle cross, could have won it for Sheffield Wednesday. Well, we are now in the hands of the referee. It's stoppage time at the end of extra time, and it's still 1-1.
Oh, you just get it in now for an Arsenal player. You get the ball down, get it to someone. If you can get it back, put it in the box anywhere. No time for subtlety now.
Andy Linnigan's come up, hit Bright. And that was Jensen, claiming that it was blocked by a hand. He really struck it like the shot that he struck for Denmark against Germany in the final of the European Championship, with not quite the same spectacular outcome. But Arsenal have another corner. Linnigan, and it's a goal for Arsenal. They've won the cup. Sheffield Wednesday are shattered. Steve Morrow leads the applause. And it won't go to penalties now, because Andy Linnigan has headed himself into the record books.
Well, I said the most likely route for Arsenal would be a set piece, and so it's proved. He attacks the ball brilliantly, but I just wonder, Chris Woods, I felt he had the ball. A goalkeeper of Chris's standard would have taken this quite comfortably. It wasn't a powerful header, but Andy Linnigan has made himself an Arsenal hero.
And he was the anti-hero for so long. Richie Barker and Trevor Francis find some words there of consolation when you'd expect them to be stunned in silence. But stunned Sheffield Wednesday. They've still got a few seconds left. And they have a corner. Can they reply in kind? And can the plaudits for Linnigan be premature? They might as well send Woods up himself, but they don't. Jensen. Arsenal have made history here, the cup kings of the country. And what a dramatic way to seal their unique achievement. Andy Linnigan has made it possible at the last gasp. A player who couldn't even be sure of a spot in the side earlier in the season, languishing in the reserves. They were going to sell him if a suitable offer came. And now all they want to do is hug him. A dream double in knockout competitions, and Sheffield Wednesday left absolutely shattered on both occasions. And Chris Waddle encapsulates the despair of Sheffield Wednesday. And the FA Cup final has another amazing story to tell. A long time coming. A game that Arsenal felt they didn't play to anything like their potential the first match on Saturday. Sheffield Wednesday had their chance to win it then. They certainly had their chances to win it tonight, when their resilience was superb, having lost the only goal of the first half, and they came back. And how must Roland Nilsson be feeling, having expended so much effort and tonight got nothing for it? But Linnigan, maybe, after having his nose broken by Mark Bright, deserved more than any Arsenal player to decide the outcome. Arsenal have gone into the record books. George Graham has now won all the domestic honours as a manager to go with his full set as a player. And Ian Wright has a winner's medal, having scored Arsenal's first goal here. Chris Waddle wiping that out in the second half. Chris Woods unable to cope with Linegan's header so late in the story, almost the last sentence of the story, and it provided the outcome on a night of rare passion and monumental commitment. And Arsenal earn the gratitude of Norwich City in passing. Norwich now join Aston Villa in next season's UEFA Cup. Arsenal will play in the Cup Winners' Cup. And Sheffield Wednesday, who've had a fantastic season, have given so much entertainment, are left empty-handed. Andy.
Well, I think you've just about said everything, Martin. Arsenal, what everyone may say about, not everyone's favourites, but tonight, in a game where I didn't think, in general play, they looked like they could win it. It took a set piece. We know how dangerous they are from those. Andy Linnigan, as you say, who had his nose broken in the first half from an elbow from Mark Bright, could not have answered any more emphatically than he did, with a goal in the last minute of extra time.
Well, the losers go up first, and Carlton Palmer leading Sheffield Wednesday up like a man who really wants to get this over with. They have made so many friends around the country, around the world, Sheffield Wednesday. He's gone so quickly, Palmer, that he's left his teammates labouring to keep up with him. This is no time to be a loser. And really, this is no way to lose.
It's horrible, that, Martin. You walk past that piece of silverware. You're basically given everything and more to earn the right to lift up, and you have to walk past it. It's heartbreaking.
It has to be done, and now really they just want to get off to their grief. John Sheridan in tears, and there will be many, many tears shed in Sheffield. They will feel a sense of injustice. Trevor Francis in this year, when the managers do get their medal, barely sticking out a hand to take his, it will mean so little. But Sheffield Wednesday clear the stage for this most resilient of clubs. Arsenal Football Club. Lucky Arsenal, they used to call them. Well, you might say that was appropriate in part tonight, but they stuck it out. Tony Adams knows the route. He's passed this way before, very recently. Then he was distracted and distressed by his part in Steve Morrow's accident, and now he's totally exhilarated by tonight's triumph. The Duchess of Kent awaits with the world's oldest and much-loved piece of footballing silverware. This will be remembered as the year of Sheffield Wednesday's suffering, but most of all the year of Arsenal's unparalleled achievement. The League Cup already on show at Highbury, and now they have this most treasured of trophies. The FA Cup belongs to Arsenal. And there will be times over the last hour or so when they will have wondered whether they would ever enjoy these scenes. So hard were they pushed. And here's Andy Linnigan. Eyes burning bright. Twin brothers with Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. What are they going to say to him? And Paul Merson, as ever, has an expressive gesture. Nigel Winterburn, who was splendid to my mind. Ian Wright got his goal and now has his winner's medal. Ian Selly, the substitute who wasn't used. And David O'Leary says farewell to Arsenal on a winning note. He's had so many great days over those 20 years. What a way to bow out, side by side with George Graham. A fairy tale. A fantastic evening at Wembley of raw drama that only the FA Cup can bring, because it means so much. So much is given to try and win it. David Dein and other Arsenal dignitaries there. And they've wondered what the medals look like. Only David O'Leary could tell them, because he's got one from 14 years ago. A smile from Alan Smith. And George Graham's roll of honour continues. Trevor Francis is still waiting for his first trophy as a manager. He'll never come closer without getting one. Well, he's taken it very well. What more can Sheffield Wednesday do? How much closer can they come? They put so much effort into their season. 63 games, 21 cup ties. But the loser in 2 finals, both by the score of 2-1. It's been a long night at Wembley, but for the Arsenal fans, a very worthwhile one. It's hard to comprehend that they are also the lowest scorers in the Premier League this season. But they've got it right when the knockout competitions have come around. And how? George Graham had his double as a player 22 years ago. And there is one common factor with this particular double. On both occasions, Arsenal won in the 3rd round of the FA Cup at Yeovil. And when we went to Yeovil for that match, in which Ian Wright set it all off for Arsenal's cup run with a hat-trick, they said it would be an omen, the Yeovil people did. George Graham will be pleased to see us. They prophesied that day, and it was all, in the end, destined to come true. Special scenes, moments to treasure. Look at that, the 2 goal scorers side by side. One, well, you'd back to score, and the other, a most unlikely hero. And how often have we had that before in the FA Cup?
Absolutely incredible. You're quite right. We would have expected Ian Wright to be a match winner. But how many of us would have expected Andy Linnigan to provide us with that one vital touch of the ball that proved oh so crucial?
He got his break back into the side when Steve Bold was injured for so long. And when Bold was fit again, as he has been over the past few weeks, Linnigan had staked his claim and kept his place. And George Graham will now look back on that as a very wise piece of selection. At the other end of the ground to these scenes, Sheffield Wednesday paying tribute to those who've travelled so far.
It's not a place for losers, Martin. Don't care what anyone says. People say you achieve something by getting here, and they've got a point, but believe me, it's not a place to lose a football match. Just you look at those scenes, the joy behind all of those players, the management team.
And Steve Morrow, who scored the winning goal in the League Cup, and then in those amazing celebration scenes was the victim of that freak accident. The first club to reach the final 12 times. And now they have their 6th victory. And they've beaten Sheffield Wednesday here at the end of extra time by 2 goals to 1.